Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Annalisa and this video is going to be all about my writing, specifically a lot about an anthology that one of my stories is going to be in that's coming out September 10th and that has a Kickstarter that is live right now, which will be linked below, but also about the fact that I'm writing short stories and trying to get them published in anthologies and magazines now, which I had not been intending on doing for quite a while. So first of all, the anthology that I am for sure being published in is called Remnants of Relics. It's being put together by Vanguard. How I got into this is basically that this curator put out a call back in October of 2024, I believe, and was saying that they were looking for queer short stories to publish in an anthology. And they had a relatively small following, and so I was like, I feel like they might not get many submissions. Therefore, a submission from me might actually make it into this collection. And I don't know how many submissions they actually got, but I do know that there ended up being 15 contributors, including Jake, and the final page count is about 199 in the PDF that I have, like the early version that has been put out, of which I have read one poem and two of the other short stories in their completeness. I just received it a couple days ago, and I plan on reading the rest before I film the final section of this video. So at the end of this video, I'll be telling you what I think of all the other authors' contributions. So far, the first poem and the next two were short stories, and I really thought they were really good. We are also sharing an editor, and interestingly enough, the editor who's working on this project is the same editor who I had contacted and who is currently working on my 50,000 word romance novel. So that's a funny coincidence. So you should have been seeing the cover for a while here up on the screen. I'll admit it's not the prettiest cover, but it does really get at what the anthology's theme is, which is parts, specifically a lot of body parts, but also parts of a whole. As the Kickstarter says, Remnants of Relics brings you the work of 15 authors with a curated selection of short stories and poems around the themes of queerness and the importance of parts, be it body parts or more abstractly, concepts like the part identity plays in our lives. So there are a total of 19 short stories and poems by 15 contributors, and I will have that list in the description as well as you can click on the link and go see them in the description of the Kickstarter. I think the cover art may be from a painting that's in the public domain because it says it's Filippo Balbi's Testa Anatomica, which kind of makes sense because flayed human art kind of went out of style a couple centuries ago. There's also a breakdown of the budget, so sort of what percentages go towards the editor, the Kickstarter fees, the authors, the artists, and the shipping and the printing. So I already had the characters and the world building set up for my novel, and then I was like, I could definitely tell a prequel of this, of how things got from one place to another, that would be interesting to people and could be told in about 3,000 to 4,000 words and would have all this pre-cooked development that I've already thought about, and that could focus on a body part, because a pretty big part of the story of the romance novel is that the main character, the female main character, is disabled. Specifically, and I didn't know this at the time, she has ankylosing spondylitis. I wrote this in December when I didn't know that that's the name of the thing that I have. So for her in the short story, she's undiagnosed. It's in a fantasy land, so diagnosis would be a little different than it is for us, but still her main healer doesn't know what she has. And that's kind of important to me to represent the undiagnosed experience, because I had that for 10 years and I maybe still have it for some of my other issues that aren't entirely explained by the AS. And I haven't decided yet whether I want to have her healer figure out that she has an autoimmune disease during the novel, or if it'll be continued to be undiagnosed and just be a description of my weird cacophony of symptoms. So I haven't decided that yet. But in this short story, she's undiagnosed, and it's actually about when her illness is basically triggered. In my case, and in the case of a lot of people with AS, it happens in late teenagerdom to early adulthood. So between 15 and 25, happened to me when I was 16. We don't know as much about it as we would like to. But it is one of those things that may be triggered by stress to the body, which can be like a post-viral situation or other things. In this case, the experience is based on my experience of my back pain gets a lot worse when I'm stressed. And also one time when I was having a flare-up, I actually injured myself and pulled something, or I'm not sure what happened, but I got much more severe pain because I moved in a bad way when I was having a flare, and that caused me to not be able to move around the house very much for a day or two. And so that specific experience is a lot what this short story is based on, and how being injured like that forces her to slow down and recognize the fact that she is struggling with fatigue and also grief, and that she can't go on like this, even if she hadn't been injured. And it's about her reckoning with that and her community reckoning with that, because the reason that she was so stressed is because she has been the sole defender of her village from zombies, magical zombies, rather than scientific zombies, who are menacing their village and can only be destroyed by dragon fire, and she's the only dragon left in her village. And the solution to this problem in the short story is kind of a band-aid that gets slapped on, and the ultimate solution to the problem is what happens in the novel. Something I really like about the collection is that each short story comes with an illustration at the beginning, and it also comes with content warnings at the beginning of every short story. So as far as the Kickstarter, there are a set of rewards. There is a set of 6 postcards with art affiliated with several of the anthology stories. That's for €8 plus €2 shipping. You can get the paperback for €20 plus €7 shipping. You can get both formats for €25 plus the shipping. And those are all the tiers, so pretty simple. We have a couple of stretch goals. One is to pay the authors more, as it's a fairly pretty tiny payment at the base. And then the next one is to pay authors even more, and also to ship out a sticker sheet with every paperback copy. My little illustration that comes before my story is a horizontal illustration of a spine with cracks in some of the vertebrae, which I really like because that's definitely how it feels sometimes. So, in other news, I am also writing a few other short stories. So there was a call on Michael LeBourne's Discord calling for submissions for a disabled anthology from disabled authors, preferably about disabled characters living in dystopia and what it would look like to see disabled characters survive in a dystopia. And so I wrote one of those. And then now I'm currently writing one for a magazine that is called Heartlines Spec. And that magazine is focused on long-term friendships and relationships. And it's Canadian, and it's all SFF. And so I really like long-term relationships, and I really like SFF. So I'm writing one for that. Submissions open in September for their fall issue. I'm also thinking of writing one for one of the indie authors that I subscribe to the newsletter of, has put out a call for a bioterror anthology. Since I started writing a zombie story, I'm actually interested in bioterror as well. So I think I might send in a pitch for that anthology as well. So lots of exciting things going on. It takes me not very much time to write a 3,000 to 4,000 word short story. And I have found I was not as bad at it as I thought. I thought I would have a really hard time because I don't usually like reading short stories that much. Because I always want more if there's much of anything there. But lately I've been reading more short story anthologies and actually really enjoying them. And also, since I've been seeing more calls for submissions that I think might actually accept me, I don't take rejection well, in case you hadn't heard that about me. I have rejection-sensitive dysphoria, so applying to loads and loads of magazines and stuff and not getting a positive reception from any of them wasn't something I really looked forward to. But since I was accepted into this Remnants of Relics anthology, I saw that actually it could actually go well and I might be accepted, so it might actually be worth writing some short stories and seeing if I could get them in anywhere. Plus, most short story anthologies and magazines, I have found out, give you the rights to your story back after 6 months, so you can publish it in your own anthology if you have a bunch of stories. And I think that the sort of stories that I'm writing right now are all kind of based around disability. I probably could put them all in one anthology together that's like disability themed. If I keep writing in that kind of vein for these submissions, then even if they don't get accepted at all, I could make my own anthology out of them at some point and self-publish it, and then they won't be wasted. So that's kind of my thought process and what my plans are. So if I keep finding new calls for submissions, I might keep writing short stories for a while until I have enough for an anthology. I do want to get back to writing some of my full-length stuff. It'll also depend on when my editor gets back with my dragon novel, although I have found that going through the notes of an editor, which I did for this short story, definitely activated the RSD. So I am not really looking forward to going through the notes on my dragon story, and I might have to do it like really slowly and work on other projects and just like do a chip away at the editing each day. But yeah, hopefully I take it well and it goes well, and then I'll have a full-length novel for you sometime 2026. Cover finished though, with the title. I showed you like the art for it a while ago, but this is the actual finished cover, hopefully, unless I change my mind. But yeah, I really like this one, so hopefully I'll stick with it. Also, it is spicy. So far there's only one spicy scene in it, which is not very many for a romance book. I was really planning on publishing on Itch.io, and then they did this whole thing with the delisting all of their spicy content because of their payment processors. So yeah, that's my current writing and publishing thing. The stories that I'm currently writing do not get picked up. I will give you snippets of them and tell you more about them whenever I want, as opposed to I'll probably tell. If they do get picked up, I'll have to keep them more secret until promotion for those anthologies begins. And now on to me talking about the other author's work in this anthology. Okay, so I read all but one of the stories now, and I really like the collection. I was happily surprised by like a lot of them being very much to my taste. The one that I didn't read was a horror one from the perspective of the serial killer / serial torturer type person. There are actually two of those, and the second one was like, I don't enjoy this genre or subgenre or trope, so I'm just gonna skip that one. I'm sure the quality was just as good as the rest of the pieces, just not to my taste, but I did have a few favorites. Those would be The Fairy's Hues, which is very short, but it's about learning to love yourself through stories about people who are similar to you, and it's about a fairy. Seal Skin was another somewhat horror one that I really liked. The Trade I liked a lot. And then Matters of the Heart was my absolute favorite. It's about someone with OCD who also seems to have generalized anxiety, or just a lot of anxiety that I have similar to, that's kind of social anxiety, and so I really identified with that, and I also really loved the disability rep there. And then Lip Service was my second favorite, and It is a little romance story from the perspective of a trans man. Really, really sweet as well. Oh, and then Loss of Limb But Not of Life was also really cool and was more disability related as well. So I really, really liked a lot of these stories, and so I hope that you will also like them, and you can get a hold of them via the Kickstarter linked below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!